HANS. HANS. Hello, my name is Elon Osborne, and I like to talk about movies, audio, and music. And we all know who Hans Zimmer is, right? He's a household name for sure, even in your neck of the woods, yes? Yeah, your neck of the woods. He is by far the most sought after, busiest composer in Hollywood right now, pumping out several scores each year, including major blockbusters like Dune, Blade Runner 2049, Interstellar, Man of Steel, The Dark Knight Trilogy, Gladiator, Inception, aka even kids movies like the Madagascar movies, Kung Fu Panda franchise, The Lion King, old and new, and one of my personal favorites both as a film and a soundtrack, Rango. He's definitely created his own empire, but it helps when you've been around for a long time. One of his earliest marks in the music industry was when he worked with the band The Buggles. You know, video killed the radio star. Yeah, he's even in the music video. Nope, not that guy. Yep, that's strapping young Hans looking as 80s as ever. But going through his discography on Wikipedia, I was stunned to find out he'd done many films back in the day that I just wasn't aware of. Driving Miss Daisy, Days of Thunder, Twister, no, not that Twister, the 1989 dark comedy Twister.
Outrageous original entertainment.
It's an acquired taste.
Oh, okay. Even Rain Man.
You're using me. You use everybody.
I'm using Raymond. Raymond, am I using you? Am I using you, Raymond?
Yeah.
Shut up! He is answering a question from a half hour ago.
Yeah, that Rain Man. But there's one particular soundtrack that I absolutely adore, and to this day is not just one of my favorite Hans Zimmer soundtracks, but one of my favorites overall. Some of you may already be familiar with this film, but I'm gonna guess the vast majority of you have never seen it nor heard of it. And that is, from 1992, The Power of One. Starring Stephen Dorff and Morgan Freeman and even a young Daniel Craig? What? The Power of One is about an English boy living in Africa during World War II who becomes a symbol of hope in a time of war through his boxing prowess. Morgan Freeman is the one who actually teaches Stephen Dorff how to box, but ultimately it's a gut-wrenching drama of loss and racism, and characters die in it that you are emotionally invested in. Although it's been years since I've actually seen it, so I'm interested to know if it still holds up. But why did Tween Elon, or Tweelin for short, why did I know about this film much less watch it? Well, I happen to have older sisters, and back then they were all like, OMG, Stephen Dorff is so hot. But when I was watching it, my mind wasn't on Stephen Dorff's sweaty muscles, it was more like, OMG, this soundtrack is so hot. Because I'm weird. Yeah. Since it takes place in Africa, Hans Zimmer hired an African choir director to help him write the choral arrangements. At this point, you might be thinking, wait, Hans Zimmer did The Lion King. That took place in Africa, so it's like The Lion King? Well, I would call it the OG Lion King. And much more dramatic, since it's not a kid's movie. It even starts off the same way as The Lion King, with a single soloist belting out a hauntingly beautiful melody, and then being joined by the rest of the choir. The soundtrack is pretty unique too. The first two tracks, The Rainmaker and Mother Africa, are movies within themselves. Roller coasters of emotion from deep despair to jovial chants that make you want to jump for joy. But not only do you get tracks of original score, you also get some traditional African choir folk songs like the tracks Limpopo River Song, Senzenina, and the Funeral Song. And in the film itself, the main character as a young boy directs a choir singing the Southland Concerto track. The only song I don't really like is track 5, which happens to be titled The Power of One. It's just a pop song that is synonymous with this time period. It seems like all major films in the 90s had a radio hit to go along with the film, but it just doesn't exactly fit in with the rest of the album as a whole, so I just skip it usually. But that's just me. As you listen to it though, you definitely get a sense that they hired Hans for a reason to do The Lion King. The penny whistle and various flute solos can be heard in both soundtracks, among other similarities. So if you love the Lion King soundtrack and want a companion piece to it, The Power of One is such a stellar soundtrack. No matter how many times I listen through it, there are still parts that give me chills. There's something to be said about not only the vocal arrangements of the singers, but the primal sounds that they incorporate with their voices. It's like it reaches deep down into my soul somehow, not just superficially gliding past my ears, you know? So if you have a kick-ass hi-fi system or some killer headphones, I implore you to check out The Power of One. The hairs will stand up on your neck as you are transported deep into Africa with incredible choral arrangements as your guide.
And there you have it.
Thank you for joining me on this gush fest. Ugh, that sounds gross. Thank you for joining me on this love letter to the lesser known Power of One soundtrack. What about you? Have you seen it? Have you listened to the soundtrack? Are you feverishly searching on your music streaming app as we speak so you can listen to it right now? Can you not get enough African choral music like me? Are you gonna notice soundtracks more often now when watching a movie? I sure hope so. As always, please be kind to each other out there. Don't just watch TV and movies, experience them, and of course, always be listening.